Welcome to the 2021 F1 in Schools Regional Finals for the West. My name's Mark, I'll be your host for the show, and it's my great privilege and pleasure to introduce our Master of Measurements, our head scrutineer, Mr. Nelson Vale.
Hello everyone.
Nelson, we've got a fun-packed show up for the guys. Let's have a quick look at what's coming up. So, we are going to meet the teams first of all. We're going to find out who's competing in the West Regional Final, and I think we're also going to hear from the teams, which will be pretty cool. We've got a little message of support from MakeUK, who are one of our regional sponsors and coordinators for the West Midlands and the West of England. We're joined in the studio, Nelson, by a very special guest, our expert F1 in Schools pundit, who we will be introducing later on, who's had a bit of a look at the teams. Oh yeah, had a little bit of a look at the team's work and is primed and ready to help talk us through the event from a technical point of view. And then, Nelson Vale, the big one, the one you've been waiting for.
Racing!
Yeah, baby. Oh yeah. So that's all coming up over the next probably hour or so. If you're sat there and you're wondering what all this F1 in Schools stuff is about, Nelson, you might be right to do so. Maybe it's your first year in the competition, maybe you're just watching the show going, what's all this about? I'll find out. Well, here's a little video explainer to help you understand a bit more about what is F1 in Schools.
What is F1 in Schools?
F1 in Schools is a global STEM challenge, working with industry partners to provide an exciting and challenging educational experience. A group of 3 to 6 students form a team, think of a name, allocate job roles, and start to design their miniature Formula 1 car of the future. The teams follow a systematic engineering design process to manufacture and race their cars, making sure they comply with a comprehensive set of technical regulations. To do this, they use professional CAD software, like Autodesk Fusion 360, and manufacture their car components using CNC machines. Once the cars are painted and assembled, they take to the track to race. Powered by compressed gas along a 20-metre racetrack, the cars are capable of speeds over 75 km per hour. The racing is fast and exciting, but there is more to the challenge, as it inspires learning not only in STEM subjects, but wider skills including project management, marketing, teamwork, innovation and communication. These wider skills are assessed by judges from education and industry. At competitions, the teams submit their cars and portfolios and also give a project presentation. F1 in Schools operates globally from ages 9 to 19, with teams taking part in school, regional and national level competitions. With the winners progressing at each stage, only the very best make it through to the World Finals. F1 in Schools is a life-changing experience for all involved, with many success stories of competitors who've come through F1 in Schools and have gone on to achieve significant outcomes in their lives. For some, that means working in Formula 1, where the experience of F1 in Schools serves as the ideal grounding for the challenges and demands of elite-level competition.
And back to me in the studio. Yeah, well there we go now, so full explainer there on what is F1 in Schools. I mean, the teams around the country who have entered this year obviously know what's going on. They've been doing a huge amount now, so I know we're going to look and sort of focus today on the cars and the racing, but so much more goes on behind the scenes, doesn't it?
Yes. So, and you know what, we have to mention this now because we've been through troubled times, and what these teams have all achieved, it's actually amazing.
Yeah.
With some teams not being able to go into their labs in school or accessing the tools that they need or the machines that they need, and actually having all these teams competing in this region, I mean, I think they deserve a massive round of applause and a big congratulations.
I couldn't agree more. It is an extraordinary effort, isn't it, in this year of challenging times. So for all the teams out there, not just in the West, but specifically for this show, for the West of England, congratulations for making it through the regional finals. Big round of applause for everyone here in the studio. Yeah, you've thoroughly deserved and earned that. Well, let's see who the teams are now. So we've talked about them. Let's see who's competing in the West Regional Final. So here they are as they line up on the grid, Nelson, starting with Born to Win.
Oh, followed by Alpha F1.
We've got JMB Racing
and Infinite Speed.
Queenfisher Racing.
Mystic Motors.
Aerotech.
Focus Racing.
Accelerate.
Project Viper.
Supersonic.
Eclipse.
Momentum Racing.
Energia.
Energia, love that stuff. I mean, that was kind of impassioned and largely amateur, but should we get the teams to do it for us now?
We can.
Let's see it from the teams. Here they are, the teams from the West of England.
Accelerate Racing.
Hello, we are Project Viper. We're Team More to Win. Woo! We're out for F1. Yay!
We're from Lisa's High School and we are J&B Racing.
We are from Lisa's and we are
Infinite Speed.
We are Greenfish Racing.
We are Kip High School and we are Aerotech.
We're Team Supersonic from Stratford-upon-Avon.
Hello, we're Team Eclipse.
Welcome to Team Energy.
Hello, we are Momentum Racing from Exeter.
Ah, cracking effort. Great to see and hear the teams. I mean, we miss that, don't we now? So we miss the cheers, the expectant faces, the nerves that we often see at regional finals.
Yeah, I don't miss riding the big white vans, but I do miss the contact and the smiles and the cheers.
Yeah, but I think the teams are here in spirit though, and you can feel that energy with the cars and the work that's been submitted. I mean, there's some absolutely outstanding stuff there. Speaking of the outstanding work of the teams, we've had a man in a studio who's been looking through the team's work, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce, as the screen says behind us, our special studio guest, Mr. Lawrence Vines. Lawrence, welcome to the studio. Are you excited?
Oh, thank you. Oh, very excited to see all of the teams from the West race. I've loved looking through your portfolios, and yeah, I think it's going to be a really close competition yet again.
Yeah, absolutely, Lawrence. I mean, Lawrence, for people out there who perhaps haven't heard your famous name and heard your tale of F1 in Schools to date, what has your sort of F1 in Schools journey been like?
Well, in 2017 I started out my first F1 in Schools competition in the professional class, regional finals, just like all of you. 3 years later we finally made it to the World Finals, and definitely my best achievement in F1 in Schools was coming third in Abu Dhabi in 2019. And in fact there I met the people from UCL, and that's where I'm now, studying mechanical engineering.
God, good effort, Lawrence. So from F1 in Schools regional finals all the way through to now on a degree course and path set hopefully for a career in mechanical engineering, do you think?
Something in Formula One, I hope.
I'm pretty sure you'll be there one day.
It is a big achievement, a third place in the World Finals. I mean, some people just achieved fourth places. I mean, twice. We love you, Timothy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a podium, is it? Really, fourth place is great, but we all want to be where Lawrence is standing. Lawrence, I think you've got your car there. I mean, it's more like your child, really, isn't it, than your car? But I think we're going to hear a bit more detail about it later on. But there it is. Your quite eye-catching and daring design. I think, are you happy to tell us a bit more about it later on in the show?
For sure.
Fantastic. Right. Well, we can cut back to that at a point later on. Now. It's worth saying that obviously F1 in Schools doesn't just happen because of myself and Nelson. We're helped by a network of supporters, inspirational individuals and organisations all around the UK who help us to coordinate, to run, to promote and to support F1 in Schools with the schools who participate. We caught up later last week with our friends at MakeUK in the West Midlands, who've got a special message for the teams competing this year.
I'm Fiona McGarry. I'm the engagement manager here at MakeUK Apprentice and Skills Training Centre. So we train around 300 apprentices every year out of our facility in Aston. A day at MakeUK as an engagement manager is very varied. We get involved in lots of different things. Our priority though is inspiring the next generation of engineers. So we're in our STEM room. So we have schools coming here every day normally, but obviously with the pandemic that's a bit different. And we have them from 7 years of age right the way through to sixth form. And it's just about making them consider engineering and manufacturing, so making an informed choice. We do hands-on activities with them. They get to meet some of our apprentices. They get to see the F1 track. And sometimes we do some summer clubs where they'll do the F1 in schools, which is really good for them, just exposing them to what an amazing career engineering is. I've been involved in F1 in schools for nearly 15 years now, because previous to this I used to work at Jaguar Land Rover, managing their education partnership centres. So I've seen firsthand the benefits of F1 in schools. It's just a really fun, exciting activity for young people to get involved in. And then for the last couple of years since I came to MakeUK, we've hosted the West Midlands Regionals here. So that's just a brilliant day for everybody here and for our apprentices to see the young talent that is coming through. Some of these young people are just created amazing things, and their engineering skills are fantastic, and they're destined for a great career in engineering. So we've since bought an F1 track, so we have our own F1 track here. So local schools can come and use our F1 track, and we do activities in summer holidays around that. And our apprentices, as part of their induction, have to build their own car and race it down the track, which they absolutely love. And it's one of the highlights of their induction week. STEM is just a fantastic career choice, and I just think it's unfortunate some young people don't even consider it as an option. And I just think you just need to make an informed decision, have a look at it, see what's involved, and then rule it out rather than just ruling it out before you've even considered it. So have a look at all the possibilities. We need more females, we need more BAME. There's only 12.4% of engineers are female at the moment, so we're doing a lot of work around this week around that. So we need more people to consider it. It's really exciting. There are so many opportunities. There's a real skill shortage, so you'll never be out of work, and there's loads of career development. So apprenticeship routes I do recommend, because I just think you're earning and you're learning and you're getting hands-on experience within a company. So it's a great route to follow within STEM-related careers. But just consider it, just see what's out there. It is really fantastic. I think it's exciting, inspiring and challenging. It's not easy, it's really difficult at times, but I just think what you get at the end is really rewarding. Most importantly, for those competing at regionals, enjoy it. It's, you know, a brilliant opportunity. Have a look at the other teams around you, because you'll always learn something. You know, you're in a room, Mark says this quite a bit, but I'm going to steal it from him. You're in a room with the most like-minded people that you're ever going to be with. And, you know, speak to them, see what they've got to do. And, you know, you can look at ways of improving your sport, but just enjoy it. It's a great opportunity.
Oh, there we go. Great to hear from Fiona at MakeUK. And thank you, Fiona, for sending us that message. Really, really appreciate that. I mean, Nelson, just want to take you back to your years as an ICC and in-country coordinator back in Portugal. What role do the kind of regional supporters and coordinators play in keeping the competition going, keeping it alive? I mean,
being a coordinator, of course, you need to make sure you make the rules available and you host the events. But there's a more in-depth structure that needs to be put in place to support the students from all around the country. So in Portugal we had 7 partners, and each of those partners were supporting different regions in the country. So what they are actually doing is, every time a team had a question or needed access to a specific bit of equipment, they were there with that quick answer saying, right, this is what you need to go to access a CNC machine, or we can put you in the right direction to an industry mentor. You know, that little help, that little push, and getting the team into the right direction makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely does. And no, it's not just MakeUK, of course, but organisations all around the country are helping us keep F1 in schools supported with the schools that compete, and making sure that we have a healthy and well-supported competition. Now, Nelson, we're going to talk about them going through the racing. We're going to refer a lot to the classes, to entry class, development class, professional class. So if you're sat at home still wondering kind of what on earth this is all about and where the differences lie in F1 in schools, here's a little quick video to explain how the classes structure works. Formula 1 in schools is split into 3 classes of entry: entry class, development class and professional class. Think of these as stepping stones, much like Formula 3, Formula 2 and Formula 1.
At regional finals, entry, development and professional class teams compete alongside each other.
They share a few things in common in the competition.
For example, the competition format, which is the same for all classes. They all get the same time on track, with 4 races each.
The judging categories are the same, albeit some of the assessables vary in size. Where they differ, the technical regulations set out for each class.
Entry, development and professional class designed to different rules. Awards categories are slightly different, so teams get the chance to fight for awards in their own class. And progression opportunities to the UK national finals and beyond differ for each class. In entry class, teams are awarded points in 6 areas: scrutineering and aesthetics, design and engineering, a verbal presentation, a research mission to find out what's next in F1 in schools, and the points for racing. A grand total of 480 points are up for grabs in entry class. Development and professional teams are awarded points in 7 areas, encompassing the design process and marketing activities needed to get to F1 in schools. A grand total of 970 points are available for all teams. Entry class is the ideal starting point for F1 in schools for 11 to 14-year-olds for 1 year only. In entry class, teams compete for the chance to be regional champions, for the privilege to be invited to the UK national finals as a special guest. There's no cost to entry, so the only financial challenge to teams is to create their car. This must be manufactured in one of 3 ways. Either handmade using traditional workshop tools and skills from the F1 model block, 3D printed as a solid component part with just moving axles and wheels, or fully CNC machined using a 3D CAD file before being machined on equipment such as a Denford CNC router. Teams must produce a simple 5-page portfolio detailing the design and manufacture process of their car. A 5-minute verbal presentation to wow the judges with their journey as a team, and the option to create a team pit display for their area on race day.
Let's take a closer look at the dev class then, which is for 11 to 19-year-olds for 1 year only. Here cars are a step up from entry, but still some way short of the pro class rules.
Development class offers the first opportunity to progress to the World Finals. To get there, the team will need to become a UK national champion by making it through from the regional finals. There's a small charge of £75 to enter. Teams must make 1 CNC manufactured race car, 2 5-page portfolios, engineering drawings, a 5-minute verbal presentation, and a purpose-built marketing pit display.
The professional class represents the highest tier of F1 in schools. Here, competitors from 11 to 19 years can compete for as many years as they wish, with the ultimate goal to arrive at the F1 in schools World Finals. Accessibles are much the same as development class, but the pro class have 2 10-page portfolios to produce.
The top teams from both regional and national finals get the chance to progress for the ultimate dream of competing at the F1 in schools World Finals. Let's take a look at the cars then side by side. In F1 in schools, entry development to professional class cars share lots in common, but they also differ in some crucial ways. Let's start with weight. Entry class must start at 65 grams minimum, where development class get a small advantage from having a 60 gram minimum. Professional class can create the lightest cars with just a 50 gram minimum weight. In entry class, teams must start with a no-go zone, a minimum volume for the chassis of the vehicle. This comprises of a basic shape that the teams design their aerodynamic structures around in an effort to create a safe but fast race car. Development class teams must use a slightly modified no-go zone, allowing a bit more freedom for design. The professional class must simply include a virtual cargo, a much smaller volume which allows for much more freedom with the aerodynamic surfaces. Both the entry class and the development class use a standard F1 in schools wheel, whereas professional class get to design, test, modify and finesse their own custom wheels using any materials they see fit. Again, the entry and development class share a standard axle, while professional class can choose their own, with many teams choosing to run low friction bearings as well. All teams are powered by an 8-gram compressed air power pack. This, combined with the minimum weights, can lead to average speeds of 40 km an hour in entry class, up to 50 km an hour in the development class, and an eye-watering 75 km an hour in the professional class. Blink and you'll miss them as our teams race down the 20-metre F1 in schools track, but will any team have what it takes to break the 1-second barrier?
Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there, Nelson, which is to go racing. That was a little explainer on the classes, so hopefully now you'll understand what we're talking about when we refer to entry, development, and then the professional classes. But Nelson Vale, we're going to just talk everybody through, before we get to it, the racing format and exactly how we're going to race the cars. So, Nels, take it away.
So the cars race 4 times each, and they race twice in each lane. So the lowest team number starts in lane 1. And then there's a lane swap after race 2, as you can see in the screen. And we're not using reaction times, we're using automatic racing, and the breakages are fixed by F1 in schools judges.
And crucially, Nelson,
the fastest compliant car wins.
And that wins the fastest car award. The racing points will still be given to the team, but of course it's only the award for the fastest car and the best engineered car, which are reserved for the fastest compliant car. Compliant in what sense then? Meaning that it hasn't done what?
So it hasn't failed a performance regulation. So a specific regulations identified in the rule book has performance regulations. If you fail one of those, unfortunately, you cannot win the fastest car award or the best engineered car award.
Right, okay. I mean, Lawrence, were those rules the ones that you tried to avoid first and foremost, or was it almost just a case of we'll just chance it with a few of them and really push the boundaries F1 style, or was it a real kind of, hands-off cotton wool approach to those performance regulations?
I have to say it was a real cotton wool approach, as you say, to all of the regulations, because you can never guarantee what will happen on race day, and you can say, we'll break this rule and make a sacrifice here with a few points, but our car will go so much faster. But that often doesn't work out. But what you can do yourself is scrutineer your car at your school before you go to an event or send it off to an event, and you can ensure that you don't lose a single one of those scrutineering points. So that would be my tip.
Yeah, very, very wise advice, that.
And from a scrutineering point of view, I mean, tolerances are everything. If you have a minimum dimension, for example, on the car length of 170 and then a maximum of 210, going into the maximum and the minimum is very risky because something can happen during manufacturing.
Yeah,
that will make the car shorter, will make the car longer after they assemble all of the parts. So why don't include a little bit of tolerance in all of your measurements, and you can guarantee that nothing will happen during manufacturing, and then they will be fully compliant.
Yep, great words of advice, Nelson. I mean, it's even down to things like a coat of paint, measure your car body to the absolute maximum, then add some paint and some lacquer, and you find you're 0.5 millimetre over. And these are the differences, aren't they, in F1 in schools now? So that we can't just wave away 1, 2, 3 millimetres. It's to the millimetre, they're absolute dimensions, aren't they?
Correct.
Okay, so Nelson, you can see it on the screen behind us. It is time to go racing. So we're going to kick off with the entry class. So of course the entry class are base tier of F1 in schools, our young teams, first time teams in the competition. Lawrence, going to throw over to you on the tech pad. You've got a bit of analysis of the first two teams out on track for us.
Well, talking about to the millimetre, we've got two cars that are very close to start our racing off. You see that they've got the same wheelbase, the height is just over 1 millimetre difference, the width is under 1 millimetre, but that key differentiator is the length. We see that Born to Win's car is 2 centimetres longer, and that you can see actually that that's probably on their nose. You see it's extended outwards in that point, designed to just cut the air away. So the weight, they're within about 3 grams, so I think we've got a race on our hands here.
Interesting, yeah, nice little bit of analysis. I mean, if you had to pick a winner, Nelson, who are you going to go for?
Sometimes you're just born to win.
Oh, lovely stuff. He loves a pun. Well, I'm going to sit on the fence and see what happens, Lawrence. I think we're both intrigued to see what happens here. Nelson, you're going to commentate us through this first race. You can't just say Born to Win. You've got to call it as you see it. So, Nelson, out onto the track and over to you for race number 1.
Right, so we have Born to Win in lane 1 and Alpha F1 in lane 2. Looking great. Lights are off, and there they go. And we have Born to Win taking it with a 1.397. But look, wow. 1.398 from Alpha F1. How close is that?
That is extreme. I mean, that is the closest possible margin between the teams. A thousandth of a second separating them at the finish line. I think we saw Born to Win just breaking the sector gate first. Now, could you just explain to us what the sector gate on the F1 in Schools track is and what it does?
Right, so the sector gate is a bit of equipment that we use in the F1 in Schools racing track and allows us to measure at a certain point of the track exactly who is first at that specific point. But then we have another gate in the end of the track that logs the winner of the race, but sometimes the one who crosses first the sector gate, it's not exactly who wins.
All right, interesting. So, I mean, Lawrence, are we talking here about the car being, in performance terms, different from the initial phase of the race to the end of the race? Is that what's the point of where the sector gate is on the track?
Yeah, so we found that the sector gate is placed around the point where the CO2 canister, which powers the cars, runs out of gas. So that's about around 0.4 seconds in. So up to then it's really being pushed down, but for the rest of the race it's actually coasting and decelerating. So that's the point where we really find that build quality and things like wheel alignment really play a factor.
Oh, wow, right, okay, so the sector gate is the sort of point at which the car stops being powered, so it's very much then a case of aerodynamic efficiency, like Lawrence says, engineering prowess from that point. Well, Nelson, I think we're ready to go back to the track and see what happens in race number 2, so Nelson, over to you.
Exciting to see if that difference will continue the same.
Yeah.
So still in the same lane, Born to Win in lane 1, Alpha F1 in lane 2. There they go. Very close again, I think.
Isn't it?
So with Alpha F1 taking it right now with a 1.437. But look, Born to Win with 1.468, not that far away.
Oh, it is super close. I mean, yeah, again, only a few hundredths of a second between the two teams. So, yeah, really, really tight so far. I mean, Lawrence, is this a thing that cars can kind of speed up and slow down throughout the racing? Do you find that the performance can change throughout 4 races?
Well, we might find that as they get into the racing with this class, that everything's loosening up. They're kind of working their way into their stride. We might see a bit later when we get onto the professional class cars, which have bearings. You definitely see them play a factor, but just to remind you, the entry and development class do not run bearings.
No, they don't. Just the standard wheels, axles, and axle bushes from F1 in schools. Well, Nels, we've just had race 2, so the track team were busy taking the cars back off track, swapping them over into the alternate lane, and ready to go again in race number 3. So, Nels, if you can call this out for us.
Right, so lanes are swapped, and Alpha F1 is now in lane 1, Born to Win in lane 2. And there we have it, with Alpha F1 taking it with a 1.422 and a 1.467 for Born to Win.
Wow, but Nelson, look at the split
Look at that split time.
A dead heat at the start, so the two teams reaching the split gate at the exact
same time.
To the 1,000th of a second at the same time. So, and then just Alpha F1 stretching ahead in the end and pipping Born to Win to the post. So, yeah, Alpha F1 just stretching a little bit into the lead now. We're ready to go to the track for the last race in this pairing. So race number 4, Nels, over to you.
So race number 4.
I must say as well, Nels, there's no damage here at all. The car's holding up well.
No breakages yet.
Close
again with Alpha F1 taking it with a 1.365 against 1.404 of Born to Win.
That is a
so Born to Win had that first win in that first race, but then Alpha F1 took 3 races.
Born to Win first and then passed over the mantle to Alpha F1. Very kind of them to do so. Oh, lovely stuff. Well, Nels, we're going to head to the next pair of teams very shortly. So, Lawrence, I think you're ready in position on the tech pad to talk us through what you've picked out about the next 2 contenders.
Yes, so for the next round we've got JMB Racing and Infinite Speed. So what's going to be really interesting here is that the weights, which we generally find do play a big factor in time, they're really close with these 2 cars, just 0.4 grams separating them. In terms of the design of the cars, we can see that they've both got very similar rear ends, but actually the fronts are completely different. So for JMB Racing, they've got that arrowhead point, whereas Infinite Speed have more of an even wedge. So really interested to see how they do.
Come on, Lawrence, put your money on one of them. Who's it going to be? Infinite Speed or JMB Racing? We're going to go for the scoop or the point?
Oh, the point.
The point. All right. Well, Nelson, I think I'll go for the scoop just to even things out.
I'm colour red all the time.
You're colour red.
But let me
just, your Portuguese flag over there, yep.
Let me just give a little bit of a tip to some of the entry class teams that produce fully 3D printed cars. So that's one of the options. Let's remember that in entry class you can do a hand carved option. There's a full 3D printed option or the CNC machined option. So during the 3D printed option, we notice that sometimes the cars come with the CO2 canister hole very, very tight. And that, guys, it's happening because, again, we're going into the limit. And then when we are 3D printing, the ABS or the PLA, it's deforming a little bit, so creating that extra mill that it's making almost impossible for the canister to go in. So make sure you guys check your cars before submitting. I mean, we had to make sure the car was safe to race. So we had to open the cylinder hole a little bit for the canister to be able to go in. The next time, and this is for all of the entry class teams, they use 3D printing. That's a tip for you.
Yeah, great advice there, Nelson. Of course, you know, you can measure these things at school. I mean, not everybody's got access to the CO2 cylinders, but of course, just a simple check with a pair of relatively cheap calipers would be enough just to give you a quick heads up if there was any action needed. Great little bit of advice there from Nelson, and I think we're ready, Nelson, to head to the track for the first race of this pairing. So let's see whether it is the scoop or the point, Infinite Speed or JMB Racing, that can take an early lead. Nelson, over to you.
So J&B Racing in lane 1, Infinite Speed in lane 2, looking great. Lights are off, and there they go.
And it is
and
close.
we have J&B Racing with a 1.351. Not very far Infinite Speed, a 1.409, but look, we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
So Infinite Speed got through the split gate with a 1.378. So first,
Yeah.
the J&B that actually won the race.
So we've actually seen an overtake in F1 in schools.
Yeah,
There we have it. On the track, we had Infinite Speed reaching the sector first, J&B Racing overtaking them to the finish line. What a fantastic little race, right? Okay, Nelson, we're going to head back to the track again. And over to you, my friend, for the next race.
So again, same lanes, J&B in lane 1, Infinite Speed in lane 2, and they're off.
Ooh, close again.
So
but
again, J&B with a 1.373 and Infinite Speed with a 1.407, with the same thing happening in the split gate.
Yeah, again, so it's another early lead there for Infinite Speed, but J&B Racing clawing it back. Now, of course, we're going to swap the cars over at this point, so
Swapping lanes.
they get a chance to race in the other lane. Lawrence, is this lane thing a thing? Is it a possibility? Is it a common thing for you to have a favourite lane? Is there anything in it, or is it just hearsay and speculation?
Well, usually for all of the different regional finals, the track would be travelling around the country. We'd be in a variety of different venues with different features around the track, different doors, the track of course being reassembled. But I have to say, the track team really do spend hours making sure that both lanes are the same. And in case there was any debate, that is why we race each cars twice in each lane. You've got your fair shot of getting that time in whichever lane you think's best.
Yeah, very, very fair and very kind of you as well to compliment the track team on the quality of the build of the tracks. I mean, did you have a favourite lane back in the day, Lawrence? Was it always one lane, or did it change event to event?
Oh, yeah, I think it changed event to event. You start the day and you get your fastest time on one lane, and then you race again and it comes on the other lane, and you just, I think you should focus on the car. Yeah,
look at the draw, I guess, on the day. You just take what you can get. But of course, it comes into more of a talking point in the World Finals, where teams can nominate a lane for a knockout competition. That's when it starts to get really technical, and people like Lawrence really come into their own with their analysis.
Let me just remind our viewers that we are live from the F1 in Schools HQ at the Danforth factory, and some of the sounds that you may be hearing in the background, it's our production crew just building F1 in Schools equipment for you guys.
Absolutely, so. Yeah, there they are in the background. They never stop, they never sleep, as do we. Right, Nelson, we're ready to head back to the track. The guys have swapped the cars over out on track, and we're ready to head out for race number 3.
So race number 3, we now have Infinite Speed in lane 1 and J&B Racing in lane 2. So let's see if lane 2 makes a difference.
Oh, that
was close, with J&B Racing taking it with a 1.372, but look how close Infinite Speed, our 1.392.
Yeah, just 0.02 of a second in it there.
Very, very close.
And looking again, so J&B, actually this time we had J&B Racing just reaching the split gate first, and then actually finishing just ahead of Infinite Speed. So this time around, not an overtake as such, but just a constant marginal head start, just advantage there. So yeah, well done. Obviously we have to mention again, just to remind people at home, we're not using reaction times in the racing this year. The cars are racing on automatic modes. They launch at the identical time. Of course, the reaction times weren't able to be set by the teams this year, so we're just running purely off car time alone.
Exactly.
Nelson, I think we're ready to go back to the track for the fourth and final race. Let's see it.
So race number 4, those colours are quite nice. And they're off. So we have J&B Racing taking it with a 1.405 and Infinite Speed with a 1.501. So the times were getting slower there, but I think that could be the pressure of being the 4th race. And a lot happens to the cars during racing.
Quite possibly. I mean, again, we mentioned briefly, didn't we, Lawrence, about the fact that the entry and dev class don't use bearings. They have this standard axle and wheel system. I mean, is there any chance that kind of could deteriorate, slow down over the races and give you that kind of slight slowing of the car, or is that more of just an atmospheric thing on the track possibly?
I mean, definitely if it's wearing down its mounts, they get that bit looser, a bit more give. that could definitely cost a little bit of time.
Yeah, interesting to see the differences between the classes. I mean, maybe we'll see the pro class speeding up. Some people seem to think that bearings sometimes can get quicker and quicker for a short period of time. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, Nels, we can head over to the next little section here, which is to think about some of the things away from the track. We've focused a lot on the cars, the track, the engineering, of course, at the moment. But we said at the beginning, a huge amount of work goes into F1 in Schools project, away from design and engineering, but into enterprise and how teams attack, the kind of marketing aspect of the competition. So here's a little recap quickly on how the enterprise section is judged.
Enterprise judging forms a central part of a team's point score. Teams produce a portfolio, a team identity, and a pit display worth 180 points. The judges are looking for evidence of project management, teamwork, sponsorship and marketing, an F1 in Schools project evaluation, and the presentation of a document, all counting towards the portfolio score. Team identity is scored on its own, while the pit display takes 3 categories: marketing, graphic design, and actual content. With 3 separate assessments, it's a multimedia judging area. For the portfolio, development class produce a 5-page portfolio, where professional class produce a 10-page portfolio. With teams essentially creating their own businesses, our judges need to have experience of this too, with a wealth of experience coming from across industry, from business owners, entrepreneurs, to marketing and sponsorship specialists.
Well, nice little insight into what happens in the enterprise judging there. And of course, Lawrence, you have been taking a bit of a closer look, haven't you, at what the teams have done for their enterprise sections of the competition. So over to you, and what have you picked out?
Okay, so from this regional, there was one team that really impressed me because they just had so much attention to detail in their branding. So this is Team Eclipse, and we can see that rather than just having like a flat logo, they've used Blender, a rendering tool, to get this glare around their logo, making it look just like a real eclipse.
Wow, nice.
And there's actually one other thing. So for all of their Zoom calls, they have this background that they took from F1, where the drivers have their interviews with all of their sponsors behind them. So that's
great.
Also a really nice way to give your sponsors a bit of airtime.
Yeah, nice. Really simple little effect as well. I mean, it's we look at these things and we go, oh, that's really obvious. Well, why didn't we think of that? But it's quite often those little details that just set the teams apart and make them kind of memorable. I mean, Lawrence, you know this from going through the competition all the way to the World Finals. What is the importance and the value to you as a team of having a really strong, identifiable sort of brand identity?
Well, I mean, as a start, we came into the World Finals, you only go with a few different teams from your country, but you get there and you recognise teams that you've seen on social media and from competitions in other countries, and they recognise you. So, I mean, even from that perspective, it's lovely, but I think it also leaves a bit of an impact with the judges if they remember you and they know you've been chipping away.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing in terms of you kind of going after support, mentorship, potentially even sponsors, is it something that kind of the more you circulate your name and your imagery, that you become memorable to sponsors and it kind of helps you get up the sponsorship ladder? Is that another benefit, I guess, to having a really consistent, strong brand?
Definitely. For them, they want. Obviously, big companies don't completely change their logo every year. So if you get a strong, simple brand that you maybe build on every year a tiny bit, that's something that they like to be recognised with. So definitely a way to catch sponsors too.
Good stuff. Okay. Obviously, the voice of experience there, having got all the way to the World Finals. In terms of the voice of experience, Lawrence, going to call on you yet again now over on the tech pad. So if you can just briefly hop away from the analysis screen onto the tech pad, we're going to introduce our next 2 teams. So Lawrence, what have you picked out about these 2 contenders?
So for this round, we've got Queenfisher Racing and Mystic Motors. So here, I think we might offer a little bit of an insight into the 3D printing process. So in the entry class, you can build the car out of whatever you'd like. And one of the most common materials is a 3D printed car, so ABS or PLA commonly. But we see that Mystic Motors' car is perhaps a bit heavier than the minimum weight of 65 grams. And with 3D printing, there are lots of options. So you can print your car as a solid block with all of the layers just on top of each other, cut through it, it's like a cake. Or you can make it so it's got some kind of structural element. So you could make it so it's not completely solid, and maybe it's got a hexagonal pattern or something. And you'll find that's almost as strong, but it also weighs a lot less. So that's maybe something to look into in the future. So with the weights, I think my bets would be on Queenfisher Racing for this round. But I'm very excited, actually. Two very different cars.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. I mean, visually, if nothing else, they are very different now. So, I mean, Nels, you see all these cars in the scrutineering process. Does it often strike you how, considering they've got quite a firm set of regulations to design from, how different the designs are?
Yeah, it's amazing how the teams can analyze the rules and regulations and just think, right, I know that I have to comply with this length, I know that I comply with the width and height of the car and regulations for the wings, but then how crazy can we go on our designs? So that's the beauty of the process that starts not just in entry class, it starts actually in the F1 in Schools primary class with our paper car version, but it's all about we need to respect the regulations, but let's go. What can we really do on the design to make our car the fastest of all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of the start of a process, Nels, it's the start of this round of racing, and we're going to head out onto the track now, Nels, if you'd like to commentate us through race number 1.
Right, so we have Queenfisher in lane 1, and we have Mystic Motors in lane 2. All the lights are going to go on, and they're off. So we have Queenfisher Racing taking it with a 1.355 and Mystic Motors with a 1.508.
There we have it.
So probably the weight difference there.
I think, Lawrence, you've been proven right, unsurprisingly there, that it is a win for weight, a win for low weight indeed. Nels, I think we can head straight back to the track. The guys have wheeled the cars back, lined them up in position, I believe, and we can head out for race number 2. Let's find out if Queenfisher can continue extending this advantage.
So let's see, race number 2, Queenfisher Racing in lane 1 still, and Mystic Motors in lane 2. And they're off. So we have Queenfisher taking it with a 1.319 and best on the split gate, and Mystic Motors with a 1.543. So quite a considerable difference there.
Couple of tenths of a second, but you know, we've seen cars run at much slower than 1.5 seconds. I mean, Mystic Motors, there's nothing to be concerned about here. Obviously, Queenfisher Racing got that weight advantage, making it really work on track for them. But yeah, Mystic Motors still in with a good chance of some decent points here. Of course, between the races, we bring the cars back, we swap them over,
the lanes,
give them the chance to race in their, who knows, preferred lane. Maybe it's not their preferred lane. Maybe Queenfisher are going to suddenly hit their bogey lane. Who knows? Nelson Vale, we will find out, because you will be talking us over race number 3 when we head shortly back out onto the track to see how they both fare. Here we are.
There they are again, with Mystic Motors now in lane 1 and Queenfisher Racing in lane 2. There they go. And we have Queenfisher taking it with a 1.357 and a 1.563 to Mystic Motors, so quite consistent, both teams, during the first 3 races.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there's not a huge amount of drop-off or improvement there, is there, in the times, which I guess for both teams, Mystic Motors and Queenfisher Racing, just suggests that they've, you know, put the cars together really nicely. The 3D printing looks great on both cars, doesn't it?
But like Lawrence mentioned, I think the honeycomb structure is the secret here for a 3D printed structure, but light.
So it's hidden lightweight. It's nothing you can see from the outside. It's that infill on the design, isn't it, where the bit that you can't see isn't solid. Interesting, yeah, little insight into how the 3D printing process works. Nelson, I think we're ready, if you're ready, for the last race of this round. So across to the track again and to race number 4.
Race number 4, final race for these two teams. So Mystic Motors in lane 1, Queenfisher Racing in lane 2. There they go. And we have Queenfisher taking it with a 1.324 and Mystic Motors with a 1.560. Yes. Again, consistency throughout the 4 races, and congrats for both teams.
Absolutely, yeah. Clean sweep there for Queenfisher, but both teams very well done, and congratulations for your efforts. Right, Lawrence, we're going to move swiftly into our next pair. Now I can see from the preview here, we've got 2 starkly contrasting cars. I'm fascinated to know what your take is on these 2 teams. So here they are.
Well, I believe this is our final entry class pairing for the region, and it is very exciting. So we've got Aerotech on the left, and I have to say it might be Aerotech by name, Aerotech by nature. So we often see between the top of those side pods and the CO2 chamber at least a 90-degree angle, but we can see that they've bridged that with material, which will definitely, I think, help send more air away from those rear wheels that won't get churned up and become turbulent. Excited to see how that car goes. On the right-hand side, we've got Focus Racing. I love the livery, that is amazing. I don't know if it's worth any time, but it should be. And again, this multi-element front wing, very excited to see how that goes. And a slot in the side pods. That could definitely create some vortices, get the air going, energizing it. Very close on weight. Can't wait to see how it goes.
You can't pick a winner, can you? This is a fascinating lineup. I just know, yeah, it's funny you pointed out. I hadn't even realised the Focus Racing car has sort of front pods, as it were, in front of the wheels, then the front wing. So this whole multi-structure front wing that you mentioned. I mean, the Aerotech car, I guess, with filling in the body there with extra material, is that one of those where it's going to be crucial then to make sure the infill isn't just solid? Because obviously they're adding a bit of extra material in there just to achieve that aero profile.
Yeah, definitely. As you can see, physically quite a bulky car, so to get that weight really almost down to the limit, they will have had to do some clever stuff. Yeah, really excited to see how these go. Really professional cars.
Let's do it. Let's find out how they get on track. Nelson Vale, if you can talk us through race number 1.
My pleasure. So in lane 1 we have Aerotech and Focus Racing in lane 2.
Oh, beautiful cars, both of them. Really well designed and made.
They're off. Looks close. So Aerotech taking it with a 1.292 and a 1.323 for Focus Racing.
These are quick times, Nelson.
So there's margin for, still much margin for Focus Racing to take the race. So let's see.
That's really cool. I mean, these are quick times. I mean, we're used to seeing 1.292, 1.3 even, low 1.3s. We're used to seeing that in the development class, in some cases even in the professional class. And let's not forget, these cars are running at, almost 20 grams more than their counterparts in the Pro class. They're 15 grams heavier. So this is quite an exciting prospect we've got. I think we're ready for race number 2, Nelson. So let's find out if indeed, as you suggest, that the Focus Racing car and maybe even the Aerotech car can go even quicker. There it is with that gorgeous livery against the sleek aero-bodied Aerotech.
And there they go.
Oh, that was too
And we
tight.
have Focus Racing taking it with a 1.331, but look how close it is to Aerotech with a 1.357.
Nelson, you called it. There it is. Maybe that livery was worth some extra time in the end, Lawrence. It's certainly an attractive thing. I think at this point, maybe it's just worth pointing out that these two cars, in terms of manufacturing, have gone different ways, haven't they, Lawrence? We've got the 3D printed car on one side, and of course, Focus Racing went a different way.
Yeah, so we can see that Focus Racing have gone for the F1 in Schools model block, which is definitely a lot less dense than a 3D printed material, so they definitely won't have had the same issues with lightweighting. As we can see, they really are at the limit. Yeah. But another factor there is that perhaps having that experience of the CNC manufacture process, they'll be even more ready to progress to the next stage of F1 in Schools in the development or professional class.
That is a really, really good point, Lawrence. Yeah, of course, when you move into the development class, Nelson, the CNC manufacture becomes a mandatory step, so the teams have to work their way through CAD and CAM to get a CNC manufactured car from the official F1 model block. Well, I believe we're ready on track just to see how this fascinating pairing goes. We've got a win each, a winner side at the moment, and two really quick cars. One CNC manufactured, well, one CNC cut car and one 3D printed car. So let's see in race number 3, Nels, what happens next.
So our judges have now swapped lanes, and Focus Racing is in lane 1, Aerotech in lane 2. And there we have it, with Aerotech taking it with a 1.345 and a 1.347.
Oh, Nelson!
For Focus Racing. How close is that again?
Well, how close is it? It's 0.002 of a second, which is literally much. That is it. Can't even say 0.002 of a second. It's almost indistinguishable. What a pairing these are. The judges are now bringing the cars back, and I'm just having a quick reference check out at the front. Yes, the cars are back at the start, and I believe we're getting thumbs up from the race crew. So Nelson, if you're ready to talk us through this 4th and final race between Aerotech and Focus Racing, I am fascinated to see which way this one goes.
Let's see. Let's see the final race. Focus Racing, Aerotech, lights, and off in it they go.
Oh, it's a lot.
So we have Focus Racing taking it with a 1.373 and a 1.448 for Aerotech.
Cool. And look at the split time as well. So Aerotech reaching that split gate actually quite significantly before Focus Racing, but then obviously the Focus car, as Lawrence was mentioning before, maybe just that bit more efficient in the cruise phase where it's slowing down and just aerodynamic drag and friction from the axles and wheels playing a bigger part in the speed. What a fascinating matchup that was.
I think we have two very happy teams with their performance there.
I think without doubt, Nelson, we've definitely got two happy teams. Well, that is the end of the entry class racing, and it's time to have a look at the final leaderboard for the class. So we see there, wow, that time set by Aerotech in the final round was a 1.292, less than 1.3 seconds. Queenfisher there, just on the other side of that. And Focus, of course, we've just seen them down in third, but even all the way down to Mystic Motors, of course, with 1.5 seconds. This is a quick field for entry class. These are quick cars, aren't they?
Very well done.
Yeah, we've seen these kind of times in, I said it before, we've seen these kind of times in pro class. So I think for all the entry class teams out there in the west of England, look out everybody else. These guys are coming next year in the development class, certainly. Well, that sort of concludes the racing for entry class. We're going to move on now into the development class. So our first two teams up on track, Lawrence, I believe you're going to talk us through them.
Well, to start with, we've got two really beautiful dev cars. I'm loving the liveries, guys. But also two very different cars. We can see that lots of the measurements are different. Width, length, height, everything is different between these two cars. But one of the things I'd like to draw your eye to are the side pods. So you see on Accelerate, they actually tuck in before the rear wheels. So I think they're trying to get the air that hits them to go in on the inside of the rear wheels and out under the car. So that's mixing it with the high-speed air that you get flowing out of the canister. Maybe there's a little bit of time to be had there by getting a bit of a boost. But Project Viper's alternate approach is having these flat-sided side pods, and they're getting the air going around the rear wheels. So really excited to see how they shape up. Obviously that car's a bit lighter. That will definitely count for something, but I think we could have a really close race on our hands.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's definitely, again, some sort of visual differences. One thing that strikes me, Lawrence, is the sort of the difference in approach to the rear wing. You've got Accelerate. I'm not sure if it's Accelerate or X-Accelerate, being from Exeter School. Not quite sure. I think we'll go with Accelerate for now. Accelerate have got this quite wide sort of, bulky looking front wing leading to a similar profile rear wing, whereas you've got Project Viper with the sort of wide, chunky front wing, but then a much more slimline, almost like a sort of a T-plane wing from an old aeroplane. So they've gone for a much smaller approach to the back. Do you often try to sort of join up the front to rear wings, or are they doing completely different things at that point on the car?
Well, your whole car, the aerodynamics act as one, so whatever happens at the rear end is as a result of the front end. So you will have your different strategies on that. I think it's a bit of a trick of the light with Accelerates having a wider rear wing mount there. I think they are similar widths.
Okay.
But you do actually draw us to the little fences on the end of the Accelerate wings. So you'll see these, if you ever go on an aeroplane, look out the window, they'll have those on the end. So vortices form down the wing and they run to the trailing edge. So the fences can be used theoretically to just reduce a bit of drag there.
Wow, okay, Lawrence. That is, yet again, Nelson, more information that we're just sat here going, oh, interesting, right. But you're absolutely right. Those little end fences, they're not just for show. They're not just to put a sponsor brand on. They actually have a function, which is to, as you say, to clean up those vortices happening from the airflow. Nelson, I think we're ready out on track. Are you ready to talk us through race number 1? All right, let's head out now onto the factory floor, onto the mezzanine and the official F1 in Schools racetrack for race number 1.
So race number 1 with Accelerate in lane 1 and Project Viper in lane 2.
I hadn't noticed that paint job there on the Project Viper car. Big fan.
And there they go. So we have Project Viper with a 1.360
nice.
And a 1.496 for Accelerate.
Okay, so good competitive first run
first
for
race.
both cars. Yeah, definitely. So, not sure if we can draw any conclusions yet from the aero profiles or the dims, but it's an interesting marker in the sand. Right, Nelson, I think we're going to go for the race number 2 straight away, so head back to the track and see what happens between this pair again. Two great looking cars again.
Definitely. So we have lights off and Project Viper taking it with a 1.406 and a 1.487, not far away, Accelerate.
So that's both cars just gradually going a little bit faster than I think. Both lanes just yielding a slightly quicker time then in
Let's
race
see if the
number 2.
magic of lane 2 will have some effect.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we talk about lane 2, lane 1, lane 2. It can be anything, can't it, Nelson? It can be a marginal angle on a bit of the floor. It can be a temperature. It can be the time of day even. It can be an air conditioning unit. I think it's very sort of circumstantial, isn't it? There's no hard and fast. The equipment is all calibrated, measured, and it is equal on both lanes to as far as we can possibly ensure. But yeah, there's always those little subtle nuances. Are you hearing that we're ready to go racing?
We're ready.
We'll head back to track, and for race number 3, Nelson, away you go.
Right, so the cars are now in different lanes. Project Viper in lane 1, Accelerate in lane 2.
I heard them launch, and
there
there
we have it, with Project Viper taking it with a 1.352
Wow.
and a 1.509 for Accelerate.
That Viper car is getting quicker and quicker, isn't it? So 1.352 now. So we've gone from the high 4s to the low 4s to the mid 3s. 1.352 now for
Really good.
Project Viper. Yeah, Project Viper, sorry. Well, Nelson, here we are. I think we're currently set at 3-0, but as we've said time and time again, Accelerate, there's nothing lost here by losing the races, as ironic as that sounds. You will score points for the racing, and they're all down to the times that you set. So absolutely, keep on going and have faith in not just your car, but your other project elements. Nelson, I think we're going to head back to the track. So for the final time in this pairing, and indeed in the development class, these being our 2 development class teams, let's see what happens in race 4.
Final race, race 4, Project Viper in lane 1, Accelerate in lane 2, development class, there they go. And
closer.
We have Project Viper taking it with a 1.392, but a 1.470 for Accelerate.
Yeah, great time from Accelerate there.
Well
I think
done.
that's just quicker again than their final time. So yeah, really well done from both teams. And like we said, that was the only 2 development class teams this time round in the West's competition today. So let's have a quick look at that leaderboard. And I think it's no surprise to us, Project Viper there, quicker on their fastest race, a 1.352, which is a really respectable time, Nels.
It is.
So 1.470 Accelerate, or X-Accelerate, I think you'll have to tell us. Tweet us, send it us on Instagram, let us know exactly how we're supposed to say your name, X-Accelerate/Accelerate, but whichever it is, super duper performance there, and well done from both the teams. Right, so we talked a little bit about the engineering of the cars, and we've sort of had Lawrence's input so far into the cars as we see them race. But Lawrence, you've been taking a bit of a closer look at the cars. We're just going to come to you after this little explainer video to show how exactly the design and engineering judging is processed by the competition. Design and engineering sits at the heart of F1 in schools. Teams produce a portfolio worth 180 points. The competition judges are looking for evidence of design concepts, 3D modelling, computer-aided analysis or CAA, the use of CAD/CAM, computer-aided design and manufacture, the manufacturing and assembly of the car, the research and development journey a team has gone on, testing processes such as CFD or computational fluid dynamics, the design process evaluation and the presentation of the team's document. Portfolios are presented in A3 format, with development class producing a 5-page portfolio and professional class producing 10-page portfolios. Such high-quality work demands highly qualified judges. The engineering sector provides many of its finest minds to help judge F1 in schools, with a stellar cast of names from Formula 1, the automotive industry, aerospace industry and beyond. Well, that's a little bit more in depth about how the design and engineering is judged. And Lawrence, you have been taking a much more detailed look than either Nelson or myself would have been capable of doing. So what have you picked out in what the teams have done?
Okay, so now we're going to have a little look into the testing of the cars.
Ooh.
So here we can see work by Momentum Racing, one of the professional class teams, and we can see that they've done some different wind tunnel testing on their car, both with CFD, computational fluid dynamics, and also in a physical wind tunnel, visualizing the flow with smoke. And you may think, but it's the same thing, why do we need to do it twice? But actually, this is something called validation, and this is really important. So it's using another form of testing to see that what you're doing is accurate. And so as we can see, they saw that they were getting the same results in each, which for them meant that rather than for every new design iteration building a brand new car and putting it in the smoke tunnel, they were able to make the changes in CFD only. And they knew that those results were reliable, so they could do lots of development there and then build cars less frequently, saving money and time.
Wow, okay, so this is, I mean, a really good option then if teams haven't, for example, got a racetrack and all the ways and means to keep pumping out different prototypes. I mean, is this method of testing arguably kind of quicker and more productive in the long term, Lawrence?
Yes, definitely. I mean, with the CFD simulations, all of our students can get Autodesk CFD for free, and you can just churn out simulation after simulation, change the parameters, make it more and more accurate, and also get all those iterations of your car. So really good way for brainstorming.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, surely though, there's nothing that beats a physical track test. You've got to try and get the car on track at some point, have you? Or do a lot of teams turn up to an event having actually never run down a racetrack?
That is definitely the case at a regional finals, for example, but there is some stuff that you can only test on the racetrack. For example, it's definitely taking it to the next level in the CFD when you manage to simulate your wheels moving, something that you see more often at a nationals or maybe even a world finals. So that's something that you only get with on-track testing, but there are also all the other elements like the strength of the car and the bearings. So.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the strength of the car, Lawrence. I think we're at a point now, Nelson, where we should probably introduce the next class of the competition, because strength quite often becomes a talking point here, doesn't it, with the professional class, or as we've come to know it,
the glass class?
The glass class,
Let's
yes.
hope not, let's hope not.
No, let's absolutely hope not. I'm hoping here for some really competitive head-to-head races and as few breakages as we can see. I mean, Lawrence, you mentioned it, you know, the fragility of the cars often is that trade-off between performance and indestructibility, which we see with the entry class teams, but perhaps professional class. I mean, were you in that position where you sort of chanced it sometimes, thinking we know it's quick, we're not sure it's going to last, but we'll go with speed over reliability?
Those professional class regulations are just all too tempting. When you've only got that little virtual cargo you need to fit in and you've got so much freedom, the temptations to do something, you know, really rather flimsy and intricate, but it is that fine line, because having to complete 4 races or even more at other competitions, these cars are endurance races too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. God, what a good way of looking at it. Endurance racing F1 cars, they are.
Yeah.
Nelson, I think we're going to head across to the tech pad. And Lawrence, if you can stay in position, please. I'm going to join you because we've got the first 2 teams up on track. Here they are head to head. Lawrence, what have you picked out about them?
So we've got 2 really quite radical designs here. So with Supersonic on the left, we see that they've got this serrated side pod, and this actually could be a bit like a vortex generator. So this churns up the air at the very lowest level, which means it sucks the air that goes over the top onto it, and means there's little flow separation, which reduces drag behind the car. So that's really interesting. We've got this seam up the centre of the car, a bit like a shark fin in Formula 1. Some teams think that this adds stability to it going down the track, and it's definitely important that you take the track as a straight line rather than a circuit with a few corners.
A series of high-speed corners, yeah.
And then we look at the Eclipse car on the right. Loving those colours. And you can see at the rear end, the pods behind the rear wheels, they start at the same width and then they really tighten up. So they're looking to get a really tiny wake behind that car. So yeah, both cars, bit of a difference on weight, but I have to say with the 2 designs, I think the aero could really play a factor here.
I love Lawrence's analysis of these cars. I think he could probably have a podcast, just Lawrence talking for hours about people's cars, looking at literally nothing more than a single photo and 5 lines of dimensions. I mean, lovely bit of analysis, Lawrence. I mean, what strikes me as well, just from a layman's perspective, is the wheelbase differences. You've got a really quite wide footprint there, or a long footprint, on the Supersonic car. Really, really long wheelbase compared to Eclipse's more compact wheelbase. Is that usually a sort of secondary effect of the aerodynamics, Lawrence, or do you start with the kind of position of the wheels and then work around them? How would you have done it as a team?
So we looked at the maximum allowed length and all of the things that you've got to fit in there, because there are clearances you have to leave either side of the wheels, for example. We took into account the size we wanted the wheels, and then we messed with it a bit. But I have to say, you draw me to an interesting point here. You can see that the rear wheels on the supersonic car are right at the back where the canister is, whereas on the Eclipse car, it's just a bit further forward. And there's a bit of a turning moment around the canister when it launches, and the car pitches a bit. Yeah. So this could really play a factor in that. Interested to see how they do.
Well, we're all interested in the studio. Nelson, are you ready to talk us through the first race?
I
think
ready.
Everybody at home is going to be waiting now to see what happens between these two cars. We've built them up enough. Supersonic against Eclipse. Nels, for race number 1, away we go.
Right, so we have Supersonic in lane 1, Eclipse in lane 2. And there we have it. We have Supersonic taking it with a 1.189 and 1.358 to Eclipse.
That is quick. That is a seriously quick time. I think the first time we've had under 1.2 seconds at this event. So already the Pro Class, yeah, looking quick. I'm not sure else whether we had any breakages there. It didn't look like we had a problem on track. I don't know if you.
I think the race track judges are saying that lane 1 Supersonic may have suffered some damage to their rear wing, that it's being currently fixed.
Interesting. Okay.
Let's see if he will be ready to race.
Yeah, okay. I mean, of course, we know that the guys on track fix the cars as efficiently, as quickly as possible, but to maintain the minimum weight. So we never let a car race again with fewer components and less weight than the maximum, than the minimum rather. So yeah, hopefully the guys are putting that back together. I mean, from your scrutineer's point of view, what are you looking for from a repair? Is it to try and make it as aerodynamic as possible, or are you looking for reliability when you repair?
Well, the weight, it's of course the first key thing that we need to check after it's repaired, but then it's the shape. So during scrutineering, we have recorded different angle shots and even videos of the car, so we then will compare those photos and shots and video pictures to compare that we have tried to rebuild that specific bit of the car, and in this case the wing, exactly to what it was.
Okay. I'm hearing from the track guys that they're ready to go on race number 2, so we're ready to head back to the track, and at this point we're going to have a little cameo from our camera on holiday. One of our cameras has decided that it's actually quite keen on finding out what's going on in the ceiling of the factory there, but back to the racetrack, and Nelson, over to you for the race commentary.
Right, and the lights are off. And we have Eclipse taking it with a 1.244 and Supersonic with a 1.261. But look, I think that was Eclipse with a wing breakage on lane 2.
You're right there. I see that too. That looks like a rear wing clean off. And interesting to point out on the rear wing of the Eclipse car that there's a couple of little locator pegs which I think position the wing. I think it was glued onto the car, but there's little locator pegs which I believe are to sort of help locate the wing and to position it in the right place. So you'd hope the guys on track will be able to quickly repair that and put it back to its original state. I mean, the guys are working at super speed out there. Obviously the cars are heading back down the track as we can't see them with this freeze frame. But yeah, you can see from Supersonic's time there that maybe that breakage had just hurt them a little bit. They've gone from sub 1.2 to just over 1.2 seconds, but still some pretty respectable times.
Yeah,
and yeah, less than 200ths between the cars there. I think the track guys are ready. They're waving frantically at me out the window, which I think is a good thing. We'll soon find out, because I think now we're ready to go back racing. So, buddy, over to you.
So we have swapped lanes, so now Supersonic is in lane 2 and Eclipse in lane 1. And there we have it with Supersonic with a 1.301, but a 1.318 for Eclipse, so not that far, really close.
Yeah, it's super tight. Are we seeing the times gradually sort of decreasing, Lawrence, because of the effect of, I don't know, maybe the accidents or a case of breakages, or is it just bearings and wheels just starting to lose their sort of fluidity and start seizing up a bit?
So I think here, in the professional class, we are now allowed to use bearings, so I think they play a key element. So with our cars, we actually noticed that I think as a mixture of wear and perhaps debris entering the bearings, that our cars got slower.
Interesting.
However, bearings often have lubrication within them, and as that gets hot, it becomes less viscous, providing less resistance. So that could be a reason why cars get faster.
Interesting. So a trade-off between wear and lesser viscosity, I guess, in the lubricant. Well, again, that's something that we wouldn't have known on our own, Nelson. So thank you, Lawrence, for that little bit of punditry. Nelson, I believe we're ready to head back to the track then for the final race.
Right. So race 4, final race with Eclipse and Supersonic.
two great-looking cars there, Nels.
And lights off.
There it was.
And
close.
that's a supersonic win with a 1.221 against a 1.285 from Eclipse.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, really consistent times. Those teams are both going to be getting some serious points on the board there going into the rest of the competition. So yeah, super little head-to-head there between Supersonic and Eclipse. And Lawrence, I believe you are primed and ready to introduce the final two teams of this event, our last two professional class teams. So Mr. Vines, over to you. What have you got?
Wow, so we've got Momentum Racing in the left-hand lane, and we can see, if we look at their front nose, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So their wing is held out, supported by these little struts, but then there's actually a clear passage through the centre of their car. So I have to say, a handy way to cut down on frontal area. And just to remind you guys, drag is actually proportional to the frontal area of the car. So this might be the silver bullet for those guys. The Energia car it's a bit heavier. But I have to say, I've got massive respect for these guys and what they've managed with the manufacturing. If you can see that nose, it is like a pin at the end. I don't know how that has made it through manufacturing, made it through being sent here to F1 in Schools HQ. That's incredible. Can't wait to see these cars race.
Yeah, I mean, interesting points on both cars. I mean, Lawrence, the Momentum nose, like you say, I mean, I look at that from this angle and just assume that's a clean slab front, but you say it's an actual cutaway underneath the front section of the nose.
Yeah, so you might be able to see on the picture there just that tiny bit of air, but actually there's a completely clean passage through the front of that car. So that's really good design. I mean, it looks a bit fragile to me, so we'll have to see how it goes on track.
Yeah, really unique, and like you say, are we going for a play on inertia with Energia, or are we saying it's Energia? I'm in two minds about this one.
Wait. Energia.
Energia?
That's how you say it in Portuguese.
Okay. Oh, we'll go with the Portuguese then, Nelson, just out of respect and fairness. I mean, I wonder whether, Lawrence, that Energia, or Energia have sacrificed kind of the weight of their car to get that manufacturing spot on. I mean, they've obviously, like you said, gone to a huge amount of care to get the detail just right. Have they perhaps just not had time to fully address the weight issue there?
I think that could definitely be a factor. As you can see on this car, they've got the standard F1 in Schools wheels that are mandatory in the entry and development class. And so they might have spent a lot of time focusing on the car body, but not quite the wheels just yet, because they are such a time-taking element to get right, you know. Just even basic things like making sure they're perfectly circular has a massive impact. So.
Right, so yeah, okay, so let's see how they go out on track.
I just want to send a message to the Momentum Racing team, because I remember them from last year's regional final, and we had a conversation after scrutineering, basically discussing some of the failures. And during scrutineering, I was very happy to see that they were taking in consideration. So thanks for that, guys. Your car was way better this year.
Well done, that man, for giving them advice, and well done, Momentum, on taking that up. Nelson, we can head to the racetrack, and you're going to talk us through race number 1.
So race number 1, lane 1, Momentum Racing, lane 2, Energia, and they're off. So we have Momentum Racing taking it with a 1.086 against a 1.306 from Energia.
Hello.
So that's very close to one of the fastest times that we've been having.
It is.
Throughout all the regions.
Oh, hello. Momentum have just arrived on the scene. That was a breathtaking time.
And this was just race 1.
Race number 1.
Can they do better?
1.1 seconds. Momentum. Wow, you really mean it this year. I don't want to hang around, Nels. Let's see what happens in race number 2. The guys out there are ready. So let's see what happens in the same lanes, race number 2.
Right,
oh,
race number 2, same lane, Momentum in lane 1, Energia in lane 2, and that was pretty fast again with the 1.186 and a 1.338 for Energia. So something happened there, not quite the same performance as in the first race, but
maybe as Lawrence said, it was that initial first run with clean bearings. Perhaps a little bit of debris, a little bit of dust, atmospheric has picked up in the car. But you can see on the first shot there of the car, the Momentum car, looking down the front, Lawrence is spot on with that great cavity under the nose. Really, really interesting, unique design feature there from Momentum. Really interesting to see. And I don't remember that from regionals last year now, so I think they've gone
They had a very similar front wing.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Completely correct me. I'll stand corrected. I think we're going to head now to...
Very fragile, I think I remember.
Yeah, no, I love it when you just cut me down like that. That's great. That's fine. I should probably look harder. Right, I think the track guys are definitely ready for race number 3. Nelson Vale, if you want to call it for us, head out onto track.
So race number 3 between Energy in lane 1 and Momentum Racing in lane 2.
There we go again. It's another win for Momentum.
And it's Momentum Racing with a 1.100 and a 1.323 for Energia.
There it is.
Another
I mean, you can
for
tell Momentum Racing clearly built on the successes of their design, which they carried through from last year, Nelson, that I remember from the regional finals. So it's good to see that they're continuing their design development. 1.1 bang on, so back on form. Maybe this has been the difference, swapping to lane 2. Well, we'll find out in race number 4 if this is going to be a tale that ends in race number 1, or if Momentum can finally just pick themselves to the quickest time in the last race of the day. Nelson Vale, over to you.
And final race, Energy in lane 1, Momentum Racing in lane 2. Lights off, there they go. And we have Momentum Racing with a 1.123 and a 1.351 for Energia.
Love a 1, 2, 3. Got a bit of time for that. Well, not as quick as their first run, but that first run really outstanding. And both teams, congratulations to Energia. Again, stick a message to us on the socials. Tell us how to pronounce your name. But we've done it in multiple ways, so you just pick the one you want, really. Let's have a look then, Nelson, at the final Pro Class leaderboard, and it stands as such. Momentum Racing from Exeter School, with that time of 1.086, which we've said is going to be right up there with the rest of the regional finals this year. I mean, that is a quick count there from Exeter School. Supersonic 1.189, Eclipse that 1.244, and not far off again that 1.306, just in 4th place there. Energia. So yeah, really impressive performance there from all the teams, and a nice kind of gradual leaderboard. Well, let's have a look at the overall leaderboard and check where all the teams came in the final rankings with all classes together. And a massive surprise here, Nels. We've highlighted them as the fastest in class, but they're out of position. Aerotech from Kinver School, 4th place. Aerotech E10, the entry class team. We talked about them in the build-up, and we said how you mentioned how they'd sort of sculpted the body and filled in those sides of the CO2 chamber. I mean, that is an astounding time.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely haven't come to that design by looking at other people's cars. They've clearly done R&D and found that was the best method, and it's paid off.
Absolutely, yeah, there it is. I mean, just to flash back to that, there they are. I mean, you've got to say, the entry class teams have done themselves proud here. We've got Queenfisher Racing in 6th, Focus down there in 7th. I mean, they're all tightly packed. If you look at the field, Nels, half a second covers 14 cars, which I think is probably as close as we've had a single regional final.
It's amazing.
It really is amazing, and worthy of our applause, if nothing else. Nels, we did this at the very beginning of the show, and I think it is probably time again just to say to all the teams, I think you've probably got a little message that you'd like to give them all for their hard work.
Well, again, to all the teams, just being able to compete through these troubled times that we've all been through, it's really outstanding. And congratulations to all of you, because you have managed to compete and to produce all of your work, your presentations, your cars, all of your engineering research had to continue, with schools sometimes closed, with the labs closed. I mean, it's really outstanding what they were able to do during these troubled times.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. And I think from all of us here in the studio, I think you've earned it again. A massive round of applause from us to say well done. Congratulations for making it through to regionals, making it through the racing, and making it to the end of your racing show. Well, that's not all. We have got an awards show coming up for you all, which is going to be, as Nelson was saying, the culmination of all the points the judges have been awarding for your verbal presentations, enterprise, design engineering, and of course the scrutineering points that Nelson's been giving out to you. So join us for that. Check back in with us for the awards show. But until then, we'll see you soon. Goodbye.